Welcome to Fear and Greed, the week ahead. I'm Sean Aylmer, and as always, I'm joined by economist Stephen Koukoulas. You'll find him at thekouk.com, THEKOUK, thekouk.com, and on X using the handle thekouk. Stephen, good morning.
Very good morning, Sean.
Now, we've got a very big week coming up. We've got a Reserve Bank board meeting. Before we jump into that, just quickly, a bunch of partial indicators last week, retail sales, building approval, things like that. When the Reserve Bank board sits down, what are they looking at in terms of the economy?
It's really interesting because, of course, what comes out tomorrow, in addition to the decision on interest rates, is the quarterly statement on monetary policy, which is usually 60 to 70 pages of really good.
What a joy!
Yeah, it's fun to read. But the thing about it is, it is actually very, very comprehensive and very good. So, what do they look at? Your question. There's probably a pecking order. Inflation and the labour market, unemployment and wages, are the two or three items that are prominent. You know, they've got to get them right. But that doesn't mean that the other indicators on the economy are unimportant, because they feed into job creation and inflation pressures. And this is where last week's data was genuinely worrying. We had retail sales going backwards. And in fact, in annual terms, it was only up 0.8%, which the statistician said was the weakest on record, putting aside the pandemic, of course, and the introduction of the GST in the year 2000. This is the weakest that they've had on record. So we consumers are hunkering down. We're stopping our spending. We're only spending on essentials, and that's sort of a really weak side. We also had building approvals, and while they were up a smidge in the month, the trend is down, and we're not building enough houses, and that housing issue is just getting worse because of that lack of new supply when demand is running so hot. So rents and house prices are still, bubbling along. And the other worrying thing, Sean, before I finish up, is the international trade data, which usually doesn't get a lot of attention, showed that the trade surplus that Australia is running, and we've banged on about that for the last year or two, is shrinking at a rapid rate of knots. And it's not just the price of our exports, it's the volume. And so my friends at CBA did a little bit of a calculation based on these numbers. And it looks like net exports, that component of GDP, will be cutting somewhere between 0.5% and 0.75% off March quarter GDP when we get those numbers in a few weeks' time. So the March quarter GDP result, using these partial indicators and throwing them into the melting pot, looks crook again.
So why is inflation still rising when you have a consumption in all sorts? And we had Woolies and Coles come out last week as well. They basically said people are buying promotional items, they're hunkering down. Why is inflation still rising then?
Yeah, that Coles inflation, 2.2%, I think that's the items that go through their checkout. And this is the thing, you've hit the nail on the head. Coles and Woolies don't sell haircuts. They don't sell a lot of rents, dwelling rent. They don't sell a lot of the things where the services side of the economy is where a lot of the price pressures are still coming through. So when we look at why inflation's sticky, why it's stubborn, and why it's not getting quickly to the RBA target range, or indeed the Federal Reserve's target range for that matter, it's the services side. Goods prices are weakening. They're down. In the recent inflation number, lamb prices, if you're into lamb, minus 16%, So there's some foodstuffs and goods prices that are coming down, but it's these services prices that are really persistent, and that's because there's still shortages in them. Things like insurance premiums, arguably climate-related. So, the insurance companies are really ramping up their premiums for both consumers and businesses because, it's hard to get insurance when you're in a flood-prone area or bushfires. You think of the last few years, insurance companies are not going to give away insurance if they're going to be paying out more than they're getting in premiums. So, that's why inflation's sticky, and there's a debate going on, and I'm hoping the RBA address this tomorrow, is part of the inflation problem or persistence that we're seeing right now coming from issues that interest rates have no effect on. Petrol's the other high-profile one. The RBA could hike interest rates 1,000 basis points tomorrow. It'd have no effect on the global oil price.
Eventually, though, people will stop paying for comprehensive car insurance. They'll underinsure their home. It has to, I suppose the word sticky doesn't mean it's stuck. It actually just means it's slow.
Good, an excellent point, yes. And we're hearing from a number of different groups that, even health insurance is something that's sort of being scaled back because the premiums are relatively high. And if you're young and reasonably healthy, why am I forking out this X $100 per month on something that I've got a low probability of using, let alone my house hasn't burnt down or flooded, I'll be okay, Jack, So that $1,000 a year on home and contents insurance, whatever it is, even more than that, I'm sure, I'll live without it and hope that my house doesn't burn down. So there are externalities that come from these price pressures. It's a really fascinating time.
Okay, so that is what the Reserve Bank is facing tomorrow. What are they going to do?
Nothing. I think everybody.
Come on, I need more than that. I need more. What are they doing after all that? Nothing.
Rates on hold. They're not. They're not going to cut for the inflation reasons that we mentioned. That surprise that we saw a couple of weeks ago. They're not going to hike either because of the weakness that we're just talking about in retail and net exports and these sorts of things. And it's one of these classic cases. I think it's a bit of a cliche. It's not what they do; it's what they say that matters. So what Michelle Bullock will actually put in her quarterly statement of monetary policy, and of course she's going to be up in front of the media packet, I think it's 3:30 tomorrow afternoon, getting grilled on her decisions, her outlook, and perhaps fleshing out some of the issues that are in there in the statement. So it's what she says. Is she still going to not rule anything in or out when it comes to interest rates, which is what she said last time? The next move could be up, it could be down. And don't forget the RBA is made up of mere mortals. Now, they're very smart economists, so they've got that advantage over most of us. But they will be reacting to the data as it comes out.
Yeah. Stephen, thank you. I hate to say this, but we have one of your competitors on the show on Wednesday morning. And the reason I mention it to you, it's Lucy Ellis, who is the Westpac chief economist. And Lucy, of course, was at the Reserve Bank until very recently, the last couple of months. I am interested in hearing what she has to say about what Michelle Bullock is saying, because she would know her very well.
Oh, indeed. And look, I think Australia's lucky and blessed that it's got fabulous market-based economists, ones that publish their views every day of the week. And I'm lucky to be on most of their emailing list. And she's been around the traps a long time, smart, knowledgeable, and her transition from the central bank to a big commercial bank, Westpac, and filling in Bill Evans' shoes, which are pretty big shoes to fill, and she's done it
big shoes
brilliantly, and she and her team at Westpac, again with CBA, the ANZ people, they produce some really high quality research, and again, goodness me, it's not for me to throw stones. They get some calls right and wrong too. That's not the issue. It's the depth of the analysis on where we are today that's going to be really important. So I'll be fascinated to tune into your podcast later this week.
Fantastic. Stephen, have a great week.
Thank you, Sean.
That was economist Stephen Koukoulas, better known as The Kook. You can find him at thekook.com and follow him on X using the handle The Kook. I'm Sean Aylmer, and this is Fear and Greed, the week ahead.